Nowadays, nobody works in extreme cold regions without a proper machine, right? But have you ever wondered what the smallest off-road snow vehicles looked like decades ago? Before modern machines, powerful engines, and cutting-edge technology, there was a time when fighting winter was pure courage. Men and women braved frozen forests, glaciers, and trails buried under feet of snow, relying only on small machines with loud, gritty engines full of character. These vehicles weren't built for comfort. They were tools for survival. Small, tough, often improvised, but capable of blazing trails where no one believed it was possible. Some looked like toys, others like something out of 1920s and 1930s sci-fi movies. But they all had one thing in common. They defied the impossible in places where cold was the enemy. So tell me, have you ever stopped to think about these little beasts of the ice? Machines that hauled cargo, pulled sleds, and even saved lives during blizzards, all without the technology we know today. Today, we are turning back the clock, almost 10 decades, to revisit the smallest vintage off-road snow vehicles you have probably never heard of. It is a real journey to a time when engineering was built on guts and ingenuity, when the roar of a 15-horsepower engine was enough to turn an ordinary person into an Arctic explorer. Get ready, because this ride will make you smell old fuel, hear the crunch of tracks tearing through ice, and relive an era when carving a path through snow was a victory on its own. Stick around until the end, because the last machine on this list is so old you probably were not even born when it conquered the snow. Miniat Dozer, 1970s. The Miniat Dozer is one of the quirkiest, most charming machines ever seen in snowy regions. Unlike industrial vehicles, the Miniat was born from the hands of home inventors. Back in the 1970s, mechanics and farmers who needed something small, cheap, and functional decided to build their own snow dozers. These homemade machines were built from small garden tractors, old lawnmowers, or even motorcycle parts. The result was a compact, lightweight vehicle, perfect for simple jobs in frozen areas. Most of them had two-cylinder engines producing around 10 to 15 horsepower, just enough to move the machine and pull small sleds loaded with firewood or supplies. Its frame was basic: reinforced metal sheets, improvised tracks, and a front blade for pushing snow. No enclosed cab, no fancy suspension. The operator was fully exposed to freezing winds, controlling the dozer with manual levers and feeling every bump of the frozen ground. The engine sounded like a motorcycle, high-pitched and steady, while the tracks crunched through the ice, leaving narrow trails in the snow. Despite being rudimentary, the Miniat Dozer did its job, clearing paths, opening access to farms and cabins, and hauling light loads where regular vehicles could not reach. The cool thing is that no two Miniats were alike. Being handmade, each builder improvised with whatever parts they had, turning each dozer into a unique mechanical creation. Some were so tiny, they could fit in the bed of a pickup truck. Over the years, these mini dozers became rare collector pieces, treasured by engineering history buffs. Finding an original, working Miniat today is like stumbling upon a time capsule from an era when necessity drove invention more than technology. Amazing, right? With so little, these machines conquered winter. But hold on. Next up, the 1960s brought even more innovations that still surprise people today. Playcat, 1960s. If the Miniat Dozer was born from DIY creativity, the Playcat took personal snow transportation to another level with limited factory production this time. In the 1960s, as recreational vehicles were booming, the Playcat emerged as a compact, affordable solution for those wanting to tackle snowy terrain without big tractors or industrial snowcats. It had a two-cylinder engine producing about 20 horsepower. Light and smartly designed, it glided over snow effortlessly, carrying two people and small cargo while staying stable. Wide rear tracks and a handlebar steering system were early versions of what modern snowmobiles would later perfect. Visually, the Playcat was simple but eye-catching. A narrow body, dual seats, and a front ski made it look like a fun ride. But it wasn't just for leisure. It delivered supplies to mountain cabins and reached tough spots during harsh winters. When fired up, its deep, rhythmic engine sound echoed through snowy mountains while powdery snow kicked up from its tracks. For many people, this was their first taste of motorized freedom on frozen ground, a concept almost unheard of just a few years earlier. The Playcat played a big role in popularizing motorized personal snow travel, paving the way for modern snowmobiles. Resorts and remote communities quickly adopted it. Families used it for everyday commutes, creating winter memories that collectors and vintage engineering fans still cherish today. Some units were even customized with small enclosed cabins or improvised trailers for hauling larger loads, showcasing its versatility. Today, finding an original Playcat in good condition is rare, and prices at specialty auctions often surpass those of new snowmobiles. If you thought compact snow machines in the 60s were impressive, wait until you see the next one. It packed even more ruggedness into a surprisingly small frame. Bolens Diablo Rouge, 1960s. Among the compact snow machines that made their mark in the 1960s, the Bolens Diablo Rouge holds a special place. Small, nimble, and with an iconic look, it was designed to deliver reliable performance on snowy terrain, whether for fun or for light work. Powered by a 2-cylinder engine producing about 25 horsepower, the Diablo Rouge had enough strength to carry supplies, tow small sleds, and handle snow-covered trails with ease. Its setup combined wide rear tracks with a front ski for precise steering, even on sharp turns or steep, slippery slopes. Its open design was part of the thrill. The driver was completely exposed to freezing winds, adding a raw, adventurous feel to every ride. Gliding through snow, hearing the deep rumble of the engine, and watching powder fly from the tracks. It is an experience that defined a generation of winter enthusiasts. But this machine was not just a toy. Farmers, hunters, and ice fishermen relied on it to reach remote areas during harsh winters. Many added small trailers to haul firewood, tools, or hunting gear, making it a valuable work companion. What is amazing is how many Diablo Rouge units survived decades of use. Thanks to its simple, rugged mechanics, enthusiasts can still bring them back to life today with minimal original parts, keeping the essence of this classic alive. And since we are talking about classics, let me remind you, hit that like button below, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you do not miss any stories about these legendary machines that conquered some of the harshest frozen landscapes on the planet. Hold tight, because the next machine shows that heavy-duty toughness could also come in a surprisingly compact size. Sno-Cat Model 420, 1960s. While recreational rides like the Playcat and Diablo Rouge were popping up in the 60s, some compact machines were built for serious work in extreme conditions. The Tucker Sno-Cat Model 420 is a perfect example of how a smaller design could tackle giant challenges in frozen environments. Despite its compact frame, the 420 carried the same DNA as the legendary Tucker Snowcats used on polar expeditions. With a 4-cylinder engine producing around 80 horsepower, it had enough muscle to power through deep snow and even tow heavy gear up rugged mountain trails. Its look was unmistakable. A fully enclosed cab to shield the operator from brutal cold, large headlights cutting through blizzards, and 4 independent tracks delivering incredible stability even on uneven, icy ground. When running, its deep engine roar blended with the crunching of tracks biting into ice, a sound that screamed raw, compressed power. The Model 420 was widely used at ski resorts, trail maintenance stations, and even Arctic airports where standard vehicles could not operate. Its smaller size allowed it to reach places where bigger machines would get stuck or could not fit at all. Beyond commercial use, scientific expeditions adopted the 420 for missions in Alaska and northern Canada. Operating in sub-zero temperatures pushed the machine to its limits, but it proved impressively reliable. Many times, it was the only way to deliver scientists and supplies to remote research sites. Over time, the 420 became a symbol of durability. Collectors now restore and showcase these machines at historic parades or snow off-road events, honoring an era when braving the winter required courage and clever engineering. If you think that is impressive ruggedness in a small package, wait until you see the next entry, another 60s machine built to dominate frozen trails with even more power and confidence. DMC 1450 Snowcat, 1960s. Also in the 1960s, Douglas Machine Company introduced the DMC 1450 Snowcat, a compact yet highly versatile snow vehicle that became popular for its unmatched ability to navigate deep snow without sacrificing payload capacity or stability. It ran on an inline six-cylinder engine producing around 120 horsepower. With continuous track drive and reinforced suspension, the 1450 climbed steep, icy inclines and cruised through frozen terrain where trucks did not stand a chance. Its cab was simple but functional, keeping the driver and passengers shielded from harsh winds. From the outside, its narrow, stretched design looked like a downsized heavy snowcat. The engine had a strong, confident tone as the tracks churned through thick snow, carving paths with authority. The 1450 stood out at ski resorts where it handled patrols and trail grooming duties. Search and rescue teams also trusted it for reaching stranded people in remote areas quickly. In some parts of Canada and northern US, it even doubled as a school transport during brutal winters, pulling small, improvised wagons full of bundled-up kids. Over the decades, its straightforward design and tough mechanics kept many of these machines running long past their expected lifespans. Even now, some are still serving isolated communities or resting proudly in private collections, a testament to their lasting reliability. Impressive, right? Machines of the 60s already had what it took to tame winter with surprising efficiency. But next, we are stepping further back in time to the 1950s, where another small yet mighty vehicle was making history in frozen regions. Oliver OC3 Crawler, 1950s. Now we are in the 1950s, a time when mechanical engineering was taking big leaps to conquer harsh winters. The Oliver OC3 Crawler, a small track-driven tractor, is a classic example of this progress. Compact yet sturdy, it was built to handle rough terrain including mud, ice, and deep snow. Its four-cylinder engine delivered about 18 horsepower, modest by today's standards, but more than enough for the lightweight tractor to handle farm chores and maintenance tasks in frozen conditions. Manual transmission and continuous tracks gave it the traction to climb icy slopes and cross snow-covered fields without bogging down. Visually, the OC3 was a small tractor with a single seat, simple lever controls, and heavy metal tracks. Its engine had a distinct, steady low rumble that echoed across snow-blanketed farms. Thanks to its small size, operators could maneuver it into places larger tractors simply could not reach. Farmers across northern US and Canada relied on the OC3 year-round. During harsh winters, many outfitted it with front-mounted blades to clear paths to barns, rural roads, and small villages. Its versatility made it a must-have tool for keeping farms running, even through snowstorms. Culturally, it became a symbol of resilience. Entire families depended on this little crawler to keep their properties alive during blizzards. Today, restored OC3s can be found at tractor shows and in private collections, where enthusiasts demonstrate how it worked in icy conditions decades ago. Some owners even customized units into makeshift mini snowcats with enclosed cabs and basic heaters, turning a farm tractor into a true winter survival machine. These DIY adaptations highlight how necessity drove innovation in rural communities long before modern snow vehicles existed. If you thought 50s tractors were tough and resourceful, get ready. The next machine revolutionized snow transport and carved paths in places that once seemed impossible to reach. Bombardier Muskeg, 1950s. Launched in 1953 in Canada, the Bombardier Muskeg is one of the most iconic machines ever built for working in snowy and icy conditions. Designed by Joseph Armand Bombardier, the pioneer behind snowmobiles, the Muskeg offered a groundbreaking solution for hauling cargo and people through terrain where trucks and regular tractors simply could not go. It was powered by a four-cylinder engine producing around 60 horsepower. Combined with its rugged metal tracks, this gave the Muskeg incredible traction. A manual transmission and reinforced suspension allowed it to travel across mud, deep snow, and even frozen streams. This made it essential for mining, forestry, and rural transport in isolated regions. Visually, the Muskeg had a compact, boxy design with an enclosed cab for 2 or 3 people and an open flatbed in the back for carrying supplies. When running, you could hear the metallic clatter of tracks crushing through ice, paired with the steady hum of its engine, a sound anyone who worked with it would never forget. In remote areas of Canada, the Muskeg became vital for developing communities. It delivered mail and supplies and transported heavy materials, keeping lifelines open when snow buried roads for months. Its legacy is so strong that decades later, collectors still restore and display Muskegs at vintage machinery shows. Some remain in active use on farms or rugged trails, proving that Bombardier's design was far ahead of its time. Enjoying these little machines from the past? Then do not forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss more incredible stories about the legends that conquered frozen frontiers. And if you thought the Muskeg was clever, the next machine takes DIY ingenuity to a whole new level. Built in small workshops during the 1940s, it amazed everyone who saw it. Turf-Trac screw-drive tractor, 1940s. Back in the 1940s, during an age of mechanical experimentation, one of the most unusual snow machines ever created appeared, the Turf-Trac screw-drive tractor. Unlike traditional snowcats with tracks, this small homemade tractor glided over snow using massive rotating screws instead of wheels or tracks. These machines were never mass-produced. They were one-off DIY builds by inventors looking for ways to operate in terrain where even tracks could not get traction. With improvised frames, small 2-cylinder engines delivering around 15 to 20 horsepower, and enormous metal nuts, they moved by literally screwing their way over snow and even thin ice, a completely unique concept for its time. From a distance, you could not miss it. A tiny open chassis with 2 huge side screws turning slowly, looking more like an experimental prototype than a working tractor. The engine had a high-pitched whine while the screws made a crunching sound as they chewed through snow, a futuristic noise decades ahead of its time. Despite the strange design, these screw-drive tractors proved very useful in extreme conditions. Farmers and remote settlers used them to haul firewood, bring in supplies, and keep narrow access routes open during blizzards. The screw system gripped where wheels and even tracks failed, allowing travel over soft snow and frozen marshes without sinking. Each unit was unique, built from salvaged parts and tailored to the needs of its maker. No two were alike, which is why working examples are now incredibly rare. Old photos and stories passed down by families are the only way we know of these ingenious builds today. This screw-drive technology later inspired military and civilian vehicles, including amphibious machines that used similar propulsion to move over snow and mud. In other words, the Turf-Trac not only worked for its time, but also influenced future engineering breakthroughs. If you think that is inventive, let us step further back to the 1930s, when compact motorized snow vehicles were just beginning to take shape. Monarch Sno-Motor, 1930s. In 1937, when off-road vehicles were practically unheard of and most winter transport relied on horse-drawn or dog sleds, the Monarch Sno-Motor brought quiet innovation. Built in the United States, this small machine introduced a motorized option for covering long snowy distances at a time when that seemed impossible. It featured a 2-cylinder engine producing about 15 horsepower. Lightweight and small, its straightforward design used narrow rear tracks for traction and a single front ski for steering. This configuration, decades ahead of its time, laid the groundwork for modern snowmobiles. The Sno-Motor had a minimalist frame with a single seat, motorcycle-style handlebars, and a small cargo rack. Starting it up produced a sharp, buzzy engine sound, mixed with the crisp crunch of its tracks cutting into the snow, instantly giving a sense of adventure in 1930s winters. It quickly found use with mail carriers, doctors, and rural workers needing reliable winter transport. In isolated communities, it replaced dog sleds and horses, turning day-long journeys into hours. Some versions even towed small sleds to bring kids to school or deliver supplies to remote cabins. Owning a Monarch Sno-Motor meant freedom and modernity in the 1930s. Today, it is a rare museum piece. Very few survive, making it a highly sought-after collector's item and a milestone in the history of winter transportation. And if you think that was advanced for its era, wait until you meet the oldest machine on our list. Built nearly a century ago, It accomplished feats that would still challenge many modern snow vehicles. Fordson Snow Devil, 1920s. Now we go all the way back to the beginning. The Fordson Snow Devil, built in 1927 in the United States, is not only the oldest machine on this list, but one of the most revolutionary. At a time when tractors were just starting to replace horses, engineers had the bold idea to adapt the Fordson tractor to handle harsh northern winters. The concept was simple, yet brilliant. They equipped the Fordson with metal tracks and front skis, creating a snow-capable machine. Its four-cylinder engine produced about 20 horsepower. Modest by today's standards, but enough to pull heavy sleds, deliver supplies, and keep isolated towns connected even during severe blizzards. Visually, it looked like a cross between a farm tractor and a miniature tank. The open cab left operators fully exposed to freezing winds, while its tracks clattered loudly across icy fields, an unforgettable sight in the late 1920s when most winter travel still depended on horse-drawn sleds. Farmers, loggers, and even emergency crews used the Snow Devil widely. Historical accounts describe it hauling entire families on sleds during rescues, proving it was more than an experimental machine. It was a survival lifeline. This early adaptation marked the birth of snow-ready tractors, inspiring future generations of engineers. Decades later, snowcats and polar exploration vehicles evolved from these first innovations. Some units were even shipped to countries like Norway and Sweden, helping modernize snow transport overseas. Finding an original Fordson Snow Devil today is nearly impossible. Most were scrapped or converted to regular tractors long ago. A few remaining units sit in museums and private collections, reminders of the machine that sparked the entire snow vehicle revolution. And to think, nearly 100 years ago, these machines were already doing what most thought was impossible, breaking trails through deep snow when engines were barely trusted to handle everyday farm work. And that wraps up our journey through time, exploring the smallest vintage off-road snow vehicles that conquered the most brutal frozen landscapes. From homemade inventions like the Cat Dozer and Turf-Trac screw-drive tractor, to historic legends like the Monarch Sno-Motor and Fordson Snow Devil. Each of these machines tells a story of human ingenuity, courage, and survival. These were not just vehicles. They were lifelines, keeping communities alive, maintaining supply routes, and even bringing a bit of fun to places where winter seemed unbeatable. Small in size, but massive in impact for the people who relied on them. These are not just machines, they are legends, proving that even without modern technology, humanity found ways to master snow with nothing more than creativity and determination. Now it's your turn. Which of these little frozen beasts would you love to drive? Which one amazed you the most or brought back old memories? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy stories like this, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. Every week, we bring you new episodes about incredible machines that tamed ice, snow, and the toughest environments on Earth. See you in the next video.